So should we start, Haseeb?
I would say let's give just one more minute. Probably 9:05, 9:05 we can start.
So time check, it's 9:05.
All right, sure. We can start. We have pretty decent
Okay,
audience as well.
sure. Thank you everyone for joining. So we will start Scrum through sensors today. 2020, as we all know, 2020 is a year full of unprecedented experiences, and to keep everyone going, we all need more levity in these uncertain times. So the session Scrum through senses seems to provide a perfect opportunity actually to strategically manage the stress of everyday life, stay sane, especially right now when work-life balance feels more like a work-life survival. So most of you have to learn to be effective at work while also feeding dogs and helping wives with the dishes. So we are trying to cover more around Scrum and how we can be at good by using our senses. I am Maria Iqbal, servant leader, member of Pakistan Agile Education, and a senior software engineer working at Affinity. With me, we have a speaker, Abdul Haseeb Qasim, Islamabad chapter president, working as an associate director, business analysis at S&P Global. So, Haseeb, I'll throw my first question towards you. With this new normal work and our relationship with it, we are going through metamorphosis. And I believe every one of us is sent here with some special assignment, some superpowers. So, can you shed some light on these superpowers we all have?
Yeah, talking about superpowers, yeah, surely, I can still recall, my super hero of my childhood. That was, Batman. One way or the other, I just kind of loved him. But later, as I was growing up, I kind of, going towards more towards, the you can say the Spider-Man, one way or the other, because he's going through all around the buildings and everything. I kind of love that. But th- having said that, I feel like those superpowers, as you rightly mentioned, we all are blessed by the God, with some sort of superpowers, right? Even if you look at a common average man, right? There are five senses, right? Which definitely are superpowers to which are actually given to us by the God himself, right? So anyone in the audience, right? If you guys are listening to me or if I'm audible to you, can you please tell me what those five senses are or could be that I might be talking about? Anyone? Okay.
I can
So,
start.
yeah, I heard someone unmuting. So,
Okay.
no? Okay. All right. So, the five senses that we have that, I truly see them as superpowers: uh, taste, smell, see. What else? Touch. What's the last one? Anyone? Maria, you?
Listen.
Yeah. So, these five powers, that are actually given to us, right? To me, everything that we do is one way or the other, it's actually dependent on this. And everything that we do, being humans, right, we do some very great things, and everything that we do is actually done through one of these things, right? That's how I believe, and that's how I look at it. So what's next you
Sure.
have?
Okay, so I'll gonna be throwing another question, and that's more related to how we can use our superpowers and achieve something out of that. So our world has become increasingly polarized and divided. In order to come together again as a Scrum team or as a team, we first need to truly hear one another. I believe we lack this capability more often. So, how can we bridge our differences through observation and understanding and be better at it?
All right. So the senses, right? And then, before actually I go towards your uh, the question that you actually asked, what I would actually, would want to do that. All right, how senses are actually, kind of related with the Scrum itself, right? Before actually going to the Scrum scene, right? So I think everyone in the audience, and probably who's actually listening to us as of now, is has gone through the Scrum guides, whatever version it is, right? It's have gone through at least once, right? So I ain't gonna go into very much details, but one thing, that what Scrum is, and how it's gonna work. But one thing that I would like to mention, the Scrum guide tells us one thing, that Scrum is an empirical process, right? What is empiricism? What is that, empirical process, right? So basically, all of us, we have kind of heard, one way or the other, in our maybe at our workplace, or maybe at home, that we'll learn as, we'll move forward, right? How we learn, the question comes, how we learn, right? So look at a baby. Babies, most of us, know this thing for sure, that even science says this thing, that the learning power of babies, that's, more than anyone else, right? How they learn. Have you seen a baby recently, who has learned something new? Maria, you, have you seen someone?
By observing their parents or by observing their surroundings. Yes.
Yes, and how do they observe? By seeing, by
Yes.
listening,
By
right? By touching, right? So using their senses, they learn, right? Scrum says the same thing. Use your senses to learn, right? And then base your decisions on those learnings. That's all about, the empiricism and Scrum being an empirical process. That learning, that decision making is based on learning, and learning how to learn, actually, that is through your senses, if I make sense.
yeah, that makes sense. Then my
All right.
next question would be
What one thing, Maria, before you put me to, to a next question. One thing, and another example, that I would actually would want to say, that our senses help us in so many ways, right? Our senses help in so many ways. What actually I mean by that, right? Even, as an adult, or as adults, right? When we touch something hot, what happens? We pull our hand back, immediately. Why is that so? There are two things for that thing, right? The very first thing, our mind, right? That's basically, is actually, defensive. Whenever, it observes, or it sees, or it, it feels some harm, right? It actually, tries to protect the body it's contained in, right? So as hot, it can obviously, cause burns and stuff. What actually happens, as soon, the information travels from here to here, it automatically says, all right, pull your hand back. Or it actually, pulls the hand back even before, we actually know that, all right, this thing was hot. That's the very first thing. Second thing, we learn it is hot only by touching it or by feeling it, right? So whatever we learn, that's through senses. And thanks to God, who gave us all these senses, so we can work. All right. So what's the question that you actually asked when we actually started this conversation?
related to superpowers, how many superpowers or how we can be better at using our superpowers.
Sorry, can you please ask the question again? Sorry, I kind of forgot that. Maria, you're muted yourself.
Is it still on mute?
No, not now. You're
Okay.
audible now.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was more about superpowers. Every one of us have some superpowers. So how can we be proactive in using those superpowers and achieve the end result?
All right. So talking about the Scrum teams, right? Now actually we have established this thing that senses are actually what? Superpowers, right? So how we can use them, right? We know this thing that all right, Scrum is a process which is actually based on empiricism, which is based on learning, and learning is something which is based on senses, right? So how are we gonna use them? It's again the same way. For decision making, what we actually need information, and those decisions could be anything. If you talk about Scrum related decisions, what those could be. I can give you a few examples. One is all right, we are not able to complete everything that we have committed for the sprint, right? Which are the things that we need to work on, and which are the things to get them complete, and which are the ones we probably not to. That's a decision, right? How to build architecture of something, right? That's a our Scrum daily decision that we actually make. And all these decisions, what they are actually based on, what priorities to work, right? And how you can use your senses to see, all right, okay, so priorities, they are basically defined in backlog. We all know that. Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay. Okay. So if we know that, all right, the priorities are in the backlog, till the time we ain't gonna see that, okay, how the priorities are looking, right? Which is most important to client, right? We obviously cannot make a decision on this thing that, okay, this is something that we need to do first, right? That's a decision, product owner takes for us. He actually prioritize the items based on the client needs. Till the time he don't know and he don't see, he don't feel, and he don't make, that analyze. He don't analyze that. All right, how do I, or what is actually needed right now? He cannot, give us that thing, or give us that thing means, actually the prioritized backlog. Only then, we can do. Then obviously, Scrum Scrum, what actually is a Scrum team? Scrum team, aside from everything that, okay, there are three different roles and everything, to me, that is a group of individuals, right? And for individuals to work together, again, they need what? They need information so they can work together, right? And again, to collaborate even, they need information. And information is again, is a form of knowledge which is done through how? Through senses, or which is gained through how? Through senses. Maria, if you're speaking, you're on mute. If you're not speaking,
No,
I'm
I'm
getting
not.
confused that, okay, if you're saying something or not.
No, no, I'm not speaking.
All right. So what else do you have for me?
So in that scenario, I think we can relate this understanding and observation with the Scrum values that are actually focused. So how we can be better at promoting those Scrum values in a Scrum team using our senses. So like, is there a relationship between both, or is it not?
Certainly there is, because if you talk about observation, right? How observation, or first thing, do you think observation is a characteristic or it's a skill?
I think it's a skill that can be polished.
It's a skill that can be polished, right? So if observation is a skill and we need to polish, right? First, we need to understand what actually observation is, right? Observation to me is combination of three different things or three different skills. The very first one, notice. Second one, analyze. Because when you notice something, you're actually getting some information, right? Then you analyze the information, and then you remember that information up in here, right? This collective of all these three, that is, to me, that is observation, right? Now, notice. How you can notice something? Because if you actually have to improve the observation skill, right, you first need to focus on, or you first need to start noticing things. So everyone in the audience, right, I actually have a very small 1 minute activity for you. You up for it? You're not up for it? Please tell me. Either raise your hand through Zoom, or maybe unmute yourself and just tell me you guys want it, you guys don't want it.
Up for it.
Up for it? All right. So you must be joining the call or the session, through some device, either a laptop or a mobile phone or anything, right? Take a minute. Right now, what time it is? It's 9:20, right? Take a minute till 9:21, right? And just focus on your device, right? And notice smaller things about it. Be as much detailed as possible. 1 minute from now, your time starts now, and you actually total have 1 minute. So 9:22 is the time when we're gonna end this exercise. Everyone, please. All right, so it's almost 30 seconds. A minute is off like 60 seconds, so probably half time is gone. All right, almost 15 seconds remaining.
And it's 9:21.
It's 9:21. All right, okay. So time up. Any volunteer that we have on the call who would actually would want to unmute him or herself and probably share that, okay, what he or she has noticed about the device. Anyone?
I can.
Sure.
Okay, so for me, the first observation was that I saw two new scratches on the screen.
Hmm.
Um, then I saw some dust particles on the keyboard.
Hmm.
I mean, if you're talking about device, so I assume that you're talking about what I see on the screen also. So I saw that there are some unused applications that are open.
Hmm.
I saw my download bar that needs to be cleaned up.
Hmm.
Um, that was all that I could comprehend in 1 minute.
All right. Fair enough. So one question for you, Essen, right?
Yeah,
In that past 1 minute or in the minute when you were actually, focusing on your laptop, were you only focused on your laptop, or you are also listening to me and there were other thoughts coming to your head as well, that maybe why I'm doing it and
I
stuff
know
like that?
it was just I was focusing on the laptop, so there was nothing in my mind.
There was nothing else?
Nope.
All right, good. That's something very good, because when you actually are focused on that one activity that you are actually performing, right? That is simply focus, right? And that's actually one when you actually would be able to notice as much around your surrounding or as much about your surroundings, you know that's the maximum, right? Or as you can. And when you actually look for,
So
and when you are
if
actually, yeah, please.
so, I think Essen has shown a couple of Scrum values. If we relate it back, he had showed focus, commitment, and was courageous to speak. So yeah, I think that relates back to my question too.
Yep, certainly. So kudos to you, Asin. You definitely, out of three, out of five, you're actually showing like three already. So good, good job. So one more thing. Obviously, when we actually say prayers, right? Usually it's being said that, all right, all sort of thoughts, they actually come to us, when we are actually saying prayers, right? When we are in restrooms, right? All sort of, things, or all sort of, thoughts, they actually come to us at that point in time, right? Why is that so? Because at that point, we are actually not able to focus on one thing. Specifically, when during the prayers, we're actually not able to focus on that one point. However, and we actually have established this thing, that focus is very much necessary focus is very much necessary to notice. That's the very first thing that we actually need to improve our observation skill, right? So one
Mm,
thing, or and there could be numerous ways through which your focus, or you can improve your focus, but I'm gonna give you just one small exercise, practical exercise through which you can improve your focus. How to do that? It's simple. Give yourself a 5-minute break every day, probably towards end of the day, maybe when you are about to hit the bed, right? And maybe when you actually have already hit the bed, right? At that point in time, right? Just take 5 minutes, take a deep breath, close your eyes, right? And try to go through every day, or the whole day you have spent, right? Everything, or the smaller thing that you actually have done in that specific day. And that's gonna help you improve your focus. The very first day you're gonna start it actually happened with me, right? All sort of thoughts actually started to come into my head, like this, a lot. But later when we actually continued practicing this thing, I actually improved, and I was only able to focus on my day itself only. Otherwise, what was actually happened with me? Okay, I actually have to do this thing tomorrow. I was thinking about that. Okay, what I actually have done in the day already, that actually have already gone, or the time that is in the past now. I was actually started thinking about future, right? Maybe there was some music going in the background. I actually kind of started listening to that as well, and that was distraction to me. That was not letting me focus. So when you actually would want to focus, you need to practice it. You need to make sure that other than that specific one thing, there is nothing else going on in your head. And that's only when you will be able to get the maximum out of the situation. And what the maximum that we actually want to achieve to improve our observation skill, or to improve our observation, is start noticing. Only then, when you got your 100% focus on something, only then you will be able to note as many things about something that's there. The second thing about the observation skill, or how we can improve our observation skill, that is what? That is analyze. So how we can improve our analyzing skills? Simple. Again, I'll give you one simple exercise that you can do on in your daily life without actually doing anything extra that you are doing already. Obviously, we all of us do some sort of commute, probably if not every day, then every other day. Maybe we go to market for groceries. Maybe we go to our workplace. Maybe we go to some relative, right? We go at different places. Usually what we do while driving, we listen to music, right? Maybe check emails if we are not driving ourselves, right? Someone else is driving, maybe check emails if you're going to workplace, see if there is something I can do, on the go, right? Instead of doing that, focus on your surroundings and see that what's happening around you. Maybe start your day, or start your journey with one goal. Example of goal could be that, all right, I gonna see, or I gonna count that, all right, how many red cars I saw during my commute, right? Start counting them as well. Maybe you saw your first red car, driving past you. All right, okay, one red car. It could be anything. You can go for bicycles. You can go for more bikes. You can go for any specific brand of a car or vehicle, right? You can do that, but set yourself a goal. Look at that thing, all right, and cautiously keep looking for that thing while driving. The Okay, if there is any red car, if there is any red car, if there is any red car, and if there is any red car, you see another one. All right, counter plus one, counter plus one. So now you are actually noticing something, and then you are actually processing that information, and running a small calculation or whatever was there in your head already, that how many you have seen, and then adding a plus one. That's one basic thing to improve your analyzing skills, right? And then comes the last part, memory. Because for observation, or to be a strong observer, you actually need to improve your memory as well, right? There could be like, or at least I've heard this thing so many times from my boss, right? Or actually, I have told him this thing from for so many times from my boss or to my boss that, all right, Haseeb, what about that specific task? And I'm like, oh, sorry, I forgot. I hope this might have has happened, with all of you, because this is pretty normal. I'm managing a pretty large team, and this thing has happened with me a lot of times. And when I actually ask about something that, okay, what about that? Oh, sorry, we forgot. That's why people are not committed. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Right. So what actually the problem is?
Too much
Genuinely, they might not be
information
able to remember.
or too much information actually.
Maybe too much information, but for whatever reason, I'm not talking about the reason. I'm just talking about the reason that, okay, yes, they forgot, right? And to make yourself not being able to this thing that, okay, I forget things, you need to improve your memory. And yes, there are ways through which we can improve our memory as well,
So
right?
one thing I learned from you was keeping a notebook and a pen. I remember you asked, you told me something and I forgot, and then afterwards I had to keep, and now it's a habit. So I actually keep a copy and a pen every time where I'm sitting. So
Yeah, that's a good thing.
that's one thing
That's a good
I
thing.
learned from you.
That's definitely a very good thing, and that's definitely a way to build your memory, right? That's definitely a way to build your memory. However, one thing that actually I would want to tell to everyone who's listening to me today, or maybe listening to this thing in the future as well, that the memory that a human has, right? It has so much capacity, it has so much storage that no other human built machine, or no, actually no, none of the human built machines actually have that much capacity to store things, right? It can, if we use all the memory that God has gifted us, it is equivalent to a video that can be played without an interruption for 300 years straight. That's a lot of memory, right? We just need to know that how to utilize that, right? How we can utilize it, how we can improve our memory. By one way could be to play brain games. Do you know what brain games are? Yes, no, maybe.
I hate playing games, so no.
Yes, the brain games, they actually train your brain, right? They actually train your brain, and then you can keep remembering things, right? And how to force your mind to remember, right? You can do simple exercises like, maybe start observing people, or start noticing people, right? Start analyzing them, people around you, and start writing about them. Maybe just burst into a room and see the, okay, how many people are there, what they're wearing, what are different things in the room. Maybe take a note of that. Maybe try to remember this, even the smallest possible detail, right? Then just walk out of that room, write down all those things that you remember, go back into the room and check where you that how much you were able to note, how much you were able to analyze, and then when you are actually taking it, that how much actually you have remembered, right? I'll give you another example that we can train our brain to remember things, right? It's simple. I'm sure that you and the audience that's listening to us over here today, they all are familiar with machine learning, right?
So
So what actually is machine learning?
I
It's
think
simple that
someone, I think
unmuted.
Samad, yes, Samad, do you have any question?
I just wanted to, we are going off the contrary here of the topic. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to ask a quick question. Um, when you're leading multiple Scrum teams, how do you go by basically accessing and or basically assessing the success of the project, and how would you be able to explain it to the client, or what would be the key matrices on which you would run the number of the matrices and say this is the number, or this is the kind of a percentage on which you are being successful implementing or executing the project? So what would be those key things that you would want to look at when you are managing multiple Scrum teams and managing their success rate?
Definitely, that's something that's off the topic as of now. But there is one thing that actually I'm gonna see, and that is working software. How much of the working software we are able to give to the client, right? And I gonna that's gonna be the only metric through which I gonna see that okay, how much we have progress, no matter how many teams I'm managing, right? That's gonna be the only thing I'm gonna see that okay, what the value that I'm delivering to the end client.
Hmm.
If you want a more conversation about this thing, definitely you can reach me out offline and we can have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I would definitely love to, because I'm managing currently a large-sized project, and the issue is that we need to provide the insights as to what are the ways that we are leading towards by providing the insights. Is it the ROI that you're looking at? Is if it's a short term? So obviously your Scrum teams and their priorities are being already analyzed and selected. So what would be the best way when you look at it? Any milestones that is achieved by providing any given number of deliverables, that what would be the point that you would want to stop and halt and say, okay, here is what we have done from this date to this date, and this is the number of or the success rate of our project by the number of the employees, or the, like you said, it's a software utilization, or so. But again, the point is that when you are um, taking a whole team, and then you would want it to evaluate a given performance of any delivery of any given project, there got to be two or three key things that the
मेरे को बोलो वाई
project owners would be looking at. So,
हैं
what would be the two or
मैंने तो
three
बोला
things?
वाई बताओ
Sure thing. So definitely,
So I think,
that's something we actually gonna take
yeah,
offline. So
space.
Samad, please feel
Sure,
free to reach out to me offline, and we're gonna have a conversation about it at that point in time.
will do.
All
So,
good.
and one more thing I wanted to add it in. I'm sorry, but just so you were saying, observation is a skill. Just a new revised version of safe. Observation is a key characteristics of a human being, not a skill. It is per the interest. So just to add in, observation, yes, it leads to analyzing and quantifying and memorizing, but at the same time, it is a key characteristics which is activated per the interest of any given individual. We would be interested only if the red car is our interest. We will not be interested if it is not in our interest. So that's just a quick add-on. So I hope it will help.
Yeah, sure. So one thing, I would just want to, since given this thing, is definitely as part of our conversation, right? So yes, safe might be, taking this way. This is the way, what I'm actually telling, sharing, that is my own personal views, that, how I look at observation. That's one thing. Second thing, yes, being a characteristic or not being a characteristic. Yes, this is again something that we can work on and we can improve. And right now our focus is to, towards more towards this thing, that okay, how we can improve our observation skills, because we know this thing, that this is something that we actually need to improve our Scrum practices and to get more from Scrum to improve our delivery. I hope that makes sense.
Great, thanks.
And
All right.
actually, just to add, Haseeb, next question was very much related to what Samad was trying to convey. It's related to the matrices, or how when we achieve, and it's coming back again to our topic. So as a Scrum team, when we achieve something positive, it's an endorphin and it leaps us forward too. On the contrary, if we face an obstacle or a requirement change in the middle of a critical project, so we barely cop up with that. So as a team, what we can do to build more resilience and recognize that change is actually the most powerful thing for growth. And I think that would answer partially Samad's concerns.
Yeah, that I actually, I heard only the last part of it, one way or the other. I think my internet didn't help me in between, so kind of, missed your question. If you can
So
please come
so
again.
it's actually how we can build more resilience and recognize the change is important or the most powerful skill for growth in terms of Scrum team or a Scrum master or any role within the organization.
Okay, so any role in the organization, right? Can you please repeat the whole question again? I'm not getting the whole of it. I didn't get the whole of it for the very first time. That's the reason, I was like, okay, what?
So is it just happening for you or it's my internet messing
It's
up
my
because
it's
usually
my internet. It's internet on my side. I know it. It's happening for like
it's
three, four
good.
days now.
Then it's okay. So my question was, as a Scrum team, when we achieve something that's positive, it's actually a motivation or it's a motivator factor. It's a factor which which leaps us forward. We do our best to achieve the best results out of that. On the contrary, when we face an obstacle or a change of
Yep.
requirement in the middle of a critical project, we usually do not feel very confident and somehow fail to cope up with that. How we can build resilience and recognize that change is actually the most important factor or the powerful thing that build our team out of something. Like how we can relate those with our senses.
All right. So the very first thing, if a change, that is coming somewhere in between, and because of that, we are kind of going into that zone where we are actually demotivating ourselves and stuff, right? Okay. So the very first thing, again, senses, because again, this is information. Flow information is incoming, right? How we are getting that information? Through senses, either by listening, someone is telling us, or by reading, someone has sent an email, right? And stuff like that. Because obviously that's how someone's going to be actually communicating with us. What's going to happen one way or the other? Obviously, we got that information through our senses. We are then processing it, and something in back of the head is actually telling us that, okay, this is not something that is possible. Maybe everything that we have done so far, that's going in the well, and because of that we are like, okay, that ain't gonna work for us, right? And that surely can demotivate any person, right? At that point in time, flow of information is not like that, okay, flow of information is just coming from one pipe. There are multiple pipes in our surroundings or around us through which we get information, right? So when a demotivated team is there, right, or because of this information that actually came from one pipe, a person or a team is feeling actually demotivated, right, that thing actually going to transfer to others as well, because others around you, they're gonna be actually watching you, like, okay, observing, okay, this has person, this thing has actually impacted this person like this, and he's probably our most senior person, or person who is actually we depend a lot on, right? At the end, what's going to happen, that, okay, this person, if this person is feeling this way, I'm demotivated myself as well, right? That's one thing. But how to deal with it? What's going to be the solution, right? So there could be two ways. One way, the bad way, I would say, or a temporary solution, I would say, right, is to close the flow of information from that pipe from which demotivation is coming in, right? If I am getting demotivated from by looking at another person, okay, who is demotivated, and that's impacting me as well, I'll probably stop looking at that person, at least for now, right? That's one way to deal with demotivation. And I'll focus on what I actually need to do, and I'll focus on what actually is needs to happen, right? I'll continue delivering on what I can deliver, and then based on that we'll see. Then there is another thing. I can also be that person through which other people see motivation. I can be that person who can actually embrace that change, right? And and then deliver based on those change requirements, because we know this thing for sure, right? There's, if something is coming in between, or this those the changes are being given to us, they are important, and that's the only reason they are being given to us, right? Elsewise they wouldn't have been given to us, in mid of something, maybe in mid of a sprint, right? And they needs to be delivered. So one more thing that we actually need to understand, that our performance matters, but our performance should also be dependent on this thing, that what value we are actually generating for the client. So if instead of measuring our performance, if we start looking at this thing, that what value we are actually generating for the client, so instead of KPIs we actually start looking at KVIs, KPI versus KVIs, right? That is again something through which we can keep ourselves motivated, that okay, end of the day, what value we are generating for the client. Changes are coming, all right, that's fine. That means that the client is actually seeing more value in something else that what was previously being given to us. And our focus should be what value we are actually generating for the client. So focus on what generates more value for the client and give it back to him. I hope I have answered. Yes, no, maybe.
Yep, but I think there was one part which made me a little confused. You said we can break the linkage. So, for example, if my one of the team member in my team is not motivated, I'll try to break the linkage. But then, how the empathy would play the role in that one scenario, or is in Scrum framework, does it play any role at all? So that would be my next question then.
So I actually mentioned one thing, that okay, break the linkage, or close that pipe for now, right? And then be that guy who's actually who actually has picked up, who actually have who actually has the change agent sort of flag high up his head, right? Be that guy. And instead of getting yourself demotivated, you can actually be someone, by looking at someone, or be that person who can actually motivate others as well. And that's how instead of you getting the negative thoughts or negative energy from another colleague of yours, you actually are providing some positive energy to that person as well. And that's how instead of the inflow, you are actually giving outflow to that person of information, through which that person can actually feel through his or her senses and be motivated again for the work that that person is doing. Yes, no, maybe. Can it be done?
Sure. I think we can, and I would really like to have some tips to acquire such, or foster my understanding, respect differences, and overcome fear of unknown. Because as a Scrum Master, I have been into such situations daily. So, any tips or tricks which we can use to get better at it?
Yes, definitely. Right, again, I'll go back to the same thing, that improve observation, right? Even if you actually have to notice that, oh right, this person is demotivated as of now, you need to have that skill of observation to notice that at the very first place, right? And then you actually have to analyze it, that all right, why this person is demotivated. So one thing that Samad was saying earlier, and I thank him for that, that he actually have asked for more clarity on that thing, that yes, we only focus on that information which is important to us, right? We are obviously ain't gonna go and look for each and everything, because we have so much memory, so we're gonna take up each and every piece of information, gonna start storing it. No, the information that is relevant to us, we actually gonna be concerned on that thing, right? So we're gonna look at that thing, that okay, if this person is demotivated, why that person is demotivated, right? We analyze it, right? And then we're gonna, so we can actually do something, that instead of being demotivated, that person actually or what we can do actually to make that person motivated based on the reason that actually demotivated him at the very first place, right? So again, how to improve those skills, right? You need to have those smaller activities with yourself, right? Those smaller activities with yourself, and those smaller activities could be, right, anything, anything like, the things or few activities that actually have shared earlier, through which you can improve your own noticing, analyzing, and memorizing skills.
So if I have to summarize, those were sitting 5 minutes with ourselves, keeping a notebook or a pen, or focusing, trying, training our mind in such a direction like we can focus on certain items rather than focusing on everything that's provided to us. So these were few things I can quickly remember.
Yeah, yeah, true that.
Okay, I think we are left with just 10 minutes. We can take the questions from the audience and then proceed
Sure,
forward.
sure.
So,
Haseeb, I have a question for you.
You please.
You talked about the five senses and their importance and how they play a part in our daily life decisions. What about the sixth
Hmm.
sense? How important is that? For example, if you're on a release night, the deployment is being done, and you know something's gonna go wrong. That's your sixth sense talking, right? How do you control
Hmm.
that?
The gut feeling talking.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I talked about, the five superpowers that a common man actually has, or an average man has, right? The sixth sense, and the seventh sense, and the eighth sense, and there are so many superpowers that a human has, right? And definitely those superpowers, can be used if a human is blessed with those things. So even if your sixth sense, if you talk about, your sixth sense, must be telling you based on something that you actually have observed, right? Maybe you actually have observed that, all right, we haven't performed as much testing as we should have had, right? Maybe because of that, your sixth sense is telling you something. So definitely, if your sixth sense is telling you something, go for it. That's again a power, and you need to know how to use that. If it's telling you something, sure, use it.
and I have seen it's actually based on facts and figures. So if Sixth Sense is saying something, that means we have had that experience in the past, and because of similar patterns, we are predicting that this is going to happen. So usually, that's my experience.
Again, I'll say the same machine learning example I was
Yep.
giving earlier, right? So you, just like same way, we actually do machine learning. What we actually do over there, we tell machine, we give some information to machine, which actually stores in, wherever it has to, in some database or wherever it actually has to, and then based on that information, it predicts you some results, right? So same way, your gut feeling is what, everything, as Maria mentioned, mentioned with more depth, that all right, uh, you are putting some information, you are putting some information in your head, you're putting some information in your head, and you're putting some information in your head, and your mind is actually trying to predict future results. To me, that's what sixth sense is, and that's your gut feeling is. So if your gut feeling is telling you something, and you have facts to back it as well, sure, go for it. Anything else? I think by
Okay,
that
then
that was the only question that we have.
I was expecting more, but anyways, that's fine. I think then I would sincerely like to thank your audience for taking the time off from your busy schedules to actually attend the session, and we can conclude the session then. So,
All
Haseeb,
right.
are we good to go? So, there
Yep,
is
I
just
think
one
we're
quote
good.
I want to share before we close the
Sure.
session, and that's it. The best way to combat a common problem is to work together. So, always stay together as a Scrum team or achieve the best results out of that. Thank you. Stay positive and test negative. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thanks.
Haseeb. Thank you,
Thanks
Maria.
for
Thank you, everyone. Allah
Thanks,
Hafiz.
everyone.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.